So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Marianne Sorensen from the Cloud Solutions Engineering team, and today we are going to talk about AI-powered insights with ValueEdge. So we're going to talk about what it is, how we can use it, and a little sneak peek on some of the latest features as well. So first of all, what is ValueEdge Insights? Well, here we can see an overview of the ValueEdge platform. We have our shared components at the bottom. Then here at the middle, we can see our services or our ValueEdge modules. And then we have the top here, which is our ValueEdge Insights. This is what's providing us the analytics and the AI-powered capabilities across our services. And when you're navigating in ValueEdge, you will see the insights is called out with a little star icon. So one important new thing to note is space administrators can now choose to enable or disable AI analytics for specific workspaces or all workspaces. But only the data from a workspace where you have AI analytics enabled will actually be analyzed. So that means it's being uploaded to a dedicated service for analysis. If you currently have this disabled and you're enabling this, it may take a few days for the AI analytics to run through uploading the data and doing the full analysis on an existing workspace. However, once it's completed, then new workspace data, as well as any changes or updates to any of your ValueEdge items, is available for analysis straight away. So let's talk about how we can actually use ValueEdge Insights and what it's for. Well, really, the main point of ValueEdge Insights is it allows you to deliver software at high speed with a high quality. And that's obviously something we would all want. It's really about, well, ensuring that, well, while we are working more efficiently and we are improving our agility, we're still keeping these high quality standards. And even though we might have bottlenecks and we might waste time on these bottlenecks during our process, we can quickly identify them and do our best to avoid that as much as possible. So Insights is really broken down into three key areas, I would say, when we're looking into the process. When we are trying to improve speed and we're trying to improve quality. So first of all, let's talk a bit about increasing speed, improving speed. Well, the first step is, of course, to actually measure the speed and then reflecting this on a trend to be able to quickly see whether or not we're actually improving or not. Then we can drill into this data to actually understand where our bottlenecks are and how we can improve those. And then finally, the last layer is to be able to then correlate this, to be able to quickly see and make sure that when we're improving our speed, we do not do it on the cost of quality, and we are still keeping high speed and high quality. So how do we do that? Well, a good place to start will be with our features, the feature cycle time across releases. This is, of course, starting off at the higher level I was just talking about in terms of a trend widget, being able to quickly see the average cycle time of a feature across my releases. And as you can see as well, when I'm selecting a specific release, it will very quickly show me as well how we're doing. Do we have an increase or reduction compared to earlier releases as well? So this means I can very quickly see if I'm improving my cycle. So ideally, I want to have shorter cycle times for my features so I can have less time to get my features to market. Now, the interesting thing, though, is when we are selecting this widget, you'll notice on the right-hand side, this is where we start getting our insights. That is where we see that little star symbol I was just talking about. So here, first of all, we can see a list of the features with the highest cycle times. And that means to drill into a feature here, you'd notice we have feature links. So it can help me to very quickly drill into the data and find out why a feature cycle time for a specific feature was exceptionally high, for example. But you'd notice as well, we have a comparison as well below this, and that helps me to correlate my data to determine the correlation between my speed and quality. So, for example, here, if we see an improved cycle time for my features, for example, but we might have then a decrease in quality, so in the number of defects open per feature. So if this happens, we would want to check our processes to make sure that if we have a decrease in quality, it's not correlated with the improvements we've just done to our features cycle time. The other part of this is, of course, the defects cycle time per phase. And again, this is showing us a trend graph where it's showing us the number of days that a defect remains in each phase. So by studying this graph, we can quickly find anomalies in the defect resolution time, and we can quickly spot issues in the release cycle and pinpoint those problematic phases. So, for example, here, when we're looking at this graph, we can see there is an increase in the pending support phase. So that could indicate that we had a problem in the handling of defects by support. So we had a bottleneck in our specific cycle that was caused by support. However, of course, in this case, we can also see that we had an increase in our new defects. That could potentially explain it, but it's probably something I would want to drill into in more detail. And again, when we're looking at the insights trends on the right-hand side, then we can again see, of course, highest resolution time. We can quickly drill into the individual defects, which has taken a long time to resolve. But as well, we have, of course, our trending as well, where we can see whether or not the reopen rates of our defects correlates with the resolution time. Now, there's a couple of things, though, to consider when we're looking at this data. So, for example, seeing a defect resolution time going down might not always be a good thing. So, for example, if we see a high reopen rate at the same time, it could be that we're having a lower quality of our fix. And of course, that means that if we're seeing an increase in the defect resolution time, it might not always be a problem. If our reopen rate is decreasing, it could just simply mean that we're spending more times on providing a higher quality fix and getting it right the first time around. So now we've been talking a lot about speed, but of course, another area of speed is bottlenecks, waste of time. How do we improve our efficiency there? And a really good place to get started is using the timeline view. So as we can see here, this is a Gantt chart, gives us a visual representation of all of the item phases. So we can analyze the current release by being able to quickly see things like, for example, do we have any really long phases here? So that could, of course, mean that we could have delays or bottlenecks. We could as well quickly identify things like repeated phases. So we could potentially have rework. And you notice as well, we have these little red lines as well underneath some of these items. So that is specifically waste time. So this is something that can be set up and customized yourself as well. That could be things like waiting for handovers between different teams, or over processing, also on, or any other waste that has been defined within your process team. So once we have defined our waste and we're starting to measure it, well, of course, then that means we can start looking into the trend, understand the flow efficiency trend, and whether or not we are actually improving here. That means as well, we can easily go into a specific point in time and start learning about what is the causes of any waste that we're seeing, what are the highest waste factors, so we can start working on reducing waste in the process for that specific area and become more efficient. And as well, of course, we can show this in various other ways, like these waste categories, where we are seeing the waste grouped by categories for each specific release. So that can help us quickly identify whether or not we're seeing a specific trend, or maybe we're always seeing a specific waste in a specific type of waste in a specific area, for example, across all of our releases. Maybe we have specific types of releases that's generating specific types of waste, and that can help us pinpoint the best places to start working on fixing our waste. But now, of course, after improving our efficiency, we want to make sure as well that the delivery is provided with a high quality. And when we're talking about quality, that usually means that we want to get visibility into our quality risks. So what's the best way of analyzing and providing quality while we keep delivering at high speed? As well, delivering at high speed means that we would usually start working on putting effort around test automation. So how do we even know whether or not we are focusing on automating the right things? And are we having a good balance between how much effort we're putting in and the results that we're getting out? So thankfully, of course, this is where Quality Insights has an answer again. As we can see here on the left-hand side, next to our application module tree, we can see again all of these little insight stars. And you've noticed this time around, they're actually color-coded. So these are our risk indicators on specific areas of our application module. If we want to see more information about why we think a specific area is high risk or low risk, then of course we can simply go into the risk tab, and that's going to give us a lot more information about why ValueEdge believes that a specific area is a high risk area. Now, how can we actually work on then reducing the risk? Well, fairly straightforward. You'd notice on the bottom right-hand side, we have a little reduce risk option. So when we click on this button, it's going to give us suggested tests to reduce our risk. And that basically means I can select a specific test, and that's going to give me, again, more insights to explain why the system believes that passing the specific test will improve the risk of your specific application area. So from here, you can review the test. You can select one, you can select more, you can select all of the tests from here, add them to a test suite, for example, and then you know once that test suite passes, your risk will be improved for that specific application area. And as I already mentioned earlier, improving the speed would usually mean as well wanting to move more and more into test automation as well. So this is where the automation ROI widget will help, or return on investment. So this basically gives you several metrics to help you determine the rate on investments. So this will show you things like development speed, regression cost, defect costs, escape defects, and so on. So the intention behind this these metrics is really not something that you just go in and look at once. Again, this is something where you would probably want to be tracking this over time to see whether or not you have a trend of improvements. So here, effectively, we can see, well, what is the amount of automation we have compared to all of our defects, and how is this helping improve things across my releases or across whatever time frame you decide to track on. And it means I can quickly see, well, how much have we invested in test automation and what's the value we are getting out of this. So as a general rule of thumb, what we want to see as a percentage of or test automation increases, so the bar increases over time, we want to be able to see that the key indicators improve and is going down. It will give us as well a lot more information, as always, on the insights on the right-hand side. We can see it will also give us information like the automation instability. So this is basically looking at, is your automated test stable, or can they be modified? Of course, if you have an automation that's unstable, that can dramatically lower the automation ROI because you're going to put a lot more effort into fixing it. So it will also track things like the defect cost. So, for example, are we looking at defects that's been detected early because we're using automation versus what's the defects that's been submitted after doing a manual run? Do we have defects that was not even detected by our testing, and so on? And then finally, sometimes things don't go as planned. So although we have invested effort in our automation and our testing strategy, sometimes we might still see features which is taking a long time. We see this defects that is escaping from our tests and is still reaching our customers in production. So what can we do about that? Well, this is where we have our root cause analysis widget. So this helps you define problematic items and track them throughout the releases. And as you can see, ValueEdge will actually identify the root cause for you, so you can help users to identify the root cause of the problematic behaviors. And of course, see whether or not you have any correlated trends across your releases, across your escaped defects. And of course, improving the root cause, improving these correlated attributes will mean that you will decrease the number of escape defects you're seeing in production. So up until now, we have talked about how ValueEdge can help us track and analyze and improve on our speed and efficiency and our quality and our return on investment. But let's talk about something slightly different now. Let's talk about some of the latest functionalities that's come out. So if you've already seen the latest What's New for ValueEdge, you see a note of OpenText Aviator. So Aviator is the OpenText AI platform, and we have several new features which is based on AI and generative AI, which is now available to ValueEdge customers using OpenText Aviator. So this is more of a technical preview. It's not available directly in production yet, but if you are interested in trying these features, then you can simply contact support and they'll be able to enable it for you. So let's talk a little bit about some of these new features. Well, we have 3 at the moment, which is first about being able to suggest tests to ensure that you have less coverage gaps within your features. We have the option of being able to generate widgets from a plain language description. And then we have the option of being able to predict feature time to market. So let's quickly run through them in slightly more detail. So first of all, being able to generate tests with Aviator. The idea here is if you have a feature, even if you have stories linked through to your feature, you can choose to have Aviator review your data and suggest whether or not you have any coverage gaps for your specific feature, and it will suggest a skeleton for your tests for any additional tests that should be added. So this is, of course, a great bonus for QA engineers to be able to know that they have covered the coverage gap as much as possible, and they are aware of what tests needs to be created. Next up, being able to simplify the creation of widgets, just simply being able to type in text, similar to what you would do with ChatGPT, for example, adding text, and it will automatically create a widget for you. So, of course, as ValueEdge is becoming more and more popular, we're starting to see more and more business users starting to use the platform as well. And they are not necessarily aware of all of the different entities and the structure and the relationships inside ValueEdge. Therefore, being able to type and get a widget or graph created for you automatically is a great benefit. And finally, of course, earlier we were talking about identifying the risk of slowdown, waste, but as part of this, in the new timeline view, again, we now see one of the great new AI functionalities, which is the delivery time prediction. This means that you can now get alerted on delays during the delivery process, and it will actually be able to predict for you the expected time for your feature to be delivered. As you can see, it will give you an earliest and a latest estimation as well. And if you have milestones associated to this as well, it will give you warnings if it looks like it's going to cause a problem with that specific milestone. And that is it. That's all we have time for today. Thank you all for listening. I hope you found this useful and will investigate some of the widgets I shared today.